No, I choose people who don't want to be written about on the whole, whose lives are shrouded in mystery and they want to hide their secrets. And I just love the king has been far too lenient with him. And that it's not just now this sex case.
The internet had barely caught its breath when Tom Bower, the man tabloids call Britain's most feared biographer, returned with another explosive media moment. And this time, he didn't just drop a bomb, he detonated an entire minefield beneath two of the most controversial names in the royal orbit, Meghan Markle and Prince Andrew.
That there are two truths. The first truth is that the conversation, I'm told and I believe, was very early on in their relationship when Harry is bowled over.
It began, as these things often do, with a single unassuming teaser, a clipped 30-second interview preview. No context, no title, just Tom Bower leaning back in his chair, fingers steepled, eyes sharp with that unmistakable glint he gets when he knows he's about to set the country on fire. And then he said a line that ricocheted across the internet like a lightning bolt. People would be shocked to learn how closely intertwined certain royal figures truly were and who benefited. That was it. No names, no details, just enough to send every newsroom into panic mode and every royal watcher spiraling into investigative overdrive. Within minutes, the speculation machine roared to life. The hashtag started trending before the TV clip even ended. And in the center of it all, two names were being hurled around like burning coals, Meghan Markle and Prince Andrew. Two figures who, on the surface, couldn't be farther apart, and yet, in the online frenzy, their names were suddenly being pulled together like magnets in a storm.
Yes, it is a bad look, especially for Prince Andrew, because he has always denied having any sort of sexual contact with Epstein's girls.
What did Bower mean? What connection was he hinting at? And why now? Theories exploded everywhere. Some insisted he was about to unveil a hidden rivalry. Others claimed it had to do with royal finances, insider politics, or long-buried palace tensions. But the most viral theory, the one that truly poured gasoline on the fire, was the idea that Bower was about to expose a chapter of behind-the-scenes royal chaos involving both Meghan and Andrew, one the palace had allegedly buried under a mountain of silence. And as the world screamed for answers, Tom Bower gave none, which only made the hype grow. By sunrise, the story had swallowed TikTok, X, and every royal gossip forum in existence. Screenshots of the interview teaser had been reposted over 5 million times. Reaction videos went viral. Even late-night hosts in the US jumped in, cracking jokes and feeding speculation. But inside royal circles, it wasn't funny. The palace, according to sources, snapped into quiet damage control mode the moment Bower's clip dropped. Staffers reported tense meetings, emergency communications briefings, and hushed conversations in corridors. Anytime Bower speaks, people listen, one royal aide allegedly whispered. And the palace prepares for impact. What no one expected, however, was how quickly the story would turn volcanic.
About his relationship, and there was no compulsion for him to do it. And that not only...
Because just 2 hours after the clip went viral, Tom Bower made another move, this time dropping an extended excerpt from his upcoming project during a live broadcast. Again, no names, but this time there was a sentence. A sentence that made every royal reporter freeze mid-tweet. It is astonishing how events thought to be disconnected were, in truth, shaped by the same hand. Now the internet wasn't just on fire, it was melting.
I was shocked at just how thin-skinned Harry is. You know, Meghan I almost understood. She's a Hollywood B-list to be charitable actress. She was a social climber. Her whole thing is about image, so I can see why she's so easy to upset.
Commentators dissected the sentence word by word. Who is the same hand? What events was he referring to? And why did the timing feel too perfect, landing just as Meghan battled PR turbulence and Prince Andrew faced renewed media scrutiny? Meghan's critics were certain the wording was aimed at her. Andrew's critics were convinced it had to be about him. And the rest of the world? They were convinced Bower was hinting at a bombshell involving both.
I do, and I think it has divided the nation and made us all, many of us, very unhappy on either side of the argument. I just found that Harry and Meghan, having said that they were setting up in California to spread wellness and love and sincerity, have done the exact opposite. They have dumped.
The frenzy hit maximum velocity when insiders claimed Meghan's team was furious, scrambling to find out exactly what Tom Bower planned to release. According to one PR source, her staff was calling anyone who might know anything, terrified of what could be coming. Prince Andrew's camp, meanwhile, had reportedly gone completely silent. And silence in the royal world? That's when you know the walls are shaking. As speculation escalated, media outlets began digging through archives, cross-referencing timelines, and dragging up every scrap of royal history that could possibly link the two embattled figures. Some found overlapping charity events. Others found years-old palace memos hinting at internal tensions. But none had anything concrete, nothing that matched the ominous tone of Bower's hints. Then the first leak happened. A whistleblower from inside a production studio claimed that Bower's new material would shock both American and British audiences and reveal connections no one even realized existed. The leak spread like wildfire. Suddenly, every outlet had a headline. Every commentator had a theory. Every YouTuber had a 20-minute breakdown video.
A series dedicated to dissecting the most riveting royal scandals in history. This week, I'm joined by Tom Bower, author of Revenge, Meghan, Harry, and the War Between the Windsors, the defining book on Meghan Markle.
And in Montecito, sources say Meghan was pacing, phones ringing nonstop, lawyers on standby, PR advisors in crisis mode. She felt targeted. One insider said she believed Bower was obsessed with her, and this only confirmed it. Meanwhile, at Royal Lodge, Andrew's residence, the mood was reportedly grim. Staffers whispered that he'd been warned the story could reopen wounds the family hoped were closed. But nothing prepared them for what happened next. Tom Bower, after watching the global hysteria unfold, finally broke his silence in a new interview snippet released online. And this time, he didn't speak in riddles. He looked directly at the camera, leaned forward, and delivered the line that would send shockwaves through the entire royal sphere. "This is the chapter the palace hoped I would never write." The world gasped. Comment sections exploded. News anchors cut into programming. And at that moment, the question was no longer if Meghan and Prince Andrew were about to face a storm. It was how big the storm would be, how long it would last, and which of them would be hit hardest. Because whatever Bower had uncovered, whatever he was preparing to expose, both camps were bracing for impact. And the palace knew one thing for certain.
To be a stereotype. I think that would now not occur. I think there were various things about her sexual life which I dropped out on the grounds of privacy laws.
Tom Bower never teases lightly. When he speaks, something big is coming, and this time, it wasn't just big. It was seismic. And two of the most controversial figures in modern royal history were standing directly in its path. The reaction to Bower's latest revelations was instant, electric, impossible for the royal world to ignore. Within minutes of his interview hitting the airwaves, the internet erupted. Commentators refreshed their feeds in disbelief as clips spread across social platforms faster than anyone inside Windsor or Montecito could prepare for. Yet, beneath the outrage, something else buzzed. Fear. Not because Bower had exposed anything criminal, he hadn't, but because he had touched a nerve the monarchy had been trying to keep calm for years. His claims weren't accusations, they were interpretations, reframings, and historical context presented with the precision of a man who had spent his career peeling apart the mythologies of the powerful. And this time, two of the most polarizing figures, Meghan and Andrew, had landed squarely in his narrative crosshairs. Sources close to Buckingham Palace insist the institution was not blindsided. They knew Bower's book was coming. They knew the press tour would be sharp. But what they did not expect was how quickly the public would latch onto the most dramatic lines. What was meant to be commentary on public behavior, media manipulation, and the strange gravitational pull of scandal had mutated into breathless online theories, think pieces, and endless debate videos within hours.
The book and in the Oprah Winfrey interviews and by Harry in the Apple interviews can forgive him. I mean, he'd have to eat so much humble pie.
Meanwhile, inside Montecito, there was silence, then chaos. Insiders whispered that Meghan was stunned, pacing, fuming, demanding to know how Bauer had gotten hold of certain anecdotes she believed had been tightly controlled or buried beneath legal walls. Harry, by contrast, was reportedly devastated, caught between anger and exhaustion, as he watched yet another wave of scrutiny crest toward their home. He knew this couldn't be stopped, one insider shared. But that didn't make it hurt any less. Across the Atlantic, the reaction in Andrew's corner of the royal sphere was no calmer. Although Bauer's commentary centered on reputation, optics, and the lingering fallout of past decisions, rather than any new wrongdoing, it was enough to reignite discussions the institution had been desperately trying to move past. Staffers quickly locked down palace communication channels. The usual no-comment posture was deployed within minutes. Still, the damage was done. Royal experts began dissecting Bauer's claims with relentless precision. Livestream panels lit up YouTube. Longtime commentators who rarely agreed suddenly spoke the same language. Tom Bauer had hit a pressure point. Whether people liked Meghan, disliked Andrew, or were simply exhausted by royal drama, it didn't matter. Bauer had opened a new chapter of debate, one fueled by the uncomfortable intersections of celebrity, monarchy, fame addiction, generational trauma, and public expectation. And the world could not look away. Behind palace walls, something else shifted, something subtle. A sequence of moves, quiet, strategic, deliberate. Sources familiar with royal operations described it as the tightening of ropes before a storm. Meetings were held. Communications teams reviewed scripts. Senior advisors examined timing, context, optics, always the optics.
Of their experience.
I understand. Well, because I sift it through. I don't put in stuff which isn't true and can't be checked. And also, I had some admiration for Meghan. She succeeded quite well in her life and her ambitions.
Because while Bauer's revelations were technically nothing more than interpretation and commentary, the public reaction had become a beast of its own. And royal institutions, perhaps more than any in the world, understand that perception often matters more than fact. Inside the media sphere, speculation raged like wildfire. Some argued Meghan would launch a fiery counter-narrative. Others predicted she'd remain silent and allow allies to speak for her. There was even talk of whether Andrew would retreat further into obscurity or quietly rely on palace intermediaries to manage blowback. Meanwhile, Bauer himself seemed entirely unfazed. In a follow-up appearance, he doubled down not with new claims, but with the same icy composure he has always been known for. "My work speaks for itself," he said calmly. "If certain people don't like the reflection they see, that's not my problem." The line was replayed thousands of times on TikTok within the hour. And then something unexpected happened. A source inside Montecito claimed Meghan had begun drafting a personal response, not an official statement, not a legal threat, but a carefully curated message aimed at reclaiming the narrative. She wanted to frame Bauer's commentary as obsession, bias, a decades-long pattern of targeting women who challenged traditional power. She wants to flip it, the insider said. Turn the scrutiny back on him. Whether that strategy would work was another question entirely. While her team debated messaging, something far more damaging began bubbling online. Resurfaced clips, old footage, forgotten interviews, and half-remembered conversations, all tied to the themes Bauer had raised. Suddenly, everything Meghan and Andrew had ever said in public was being reevaluated through a new lens. Video editors stitched together montages. Podcasters produced hour-long dissections. Royal Watch accounts racked up millions of views connecting dots that had never been dots to begin with. Interpretation became theory. Theory became narrative. Narrative became viral truth. And perhaps most surprising was the palace's reaction: disciplined detachment. Not a word. Not a whisper. Not a hint of endorsement or denial. It was the oldest strategy in the royal playbook: don't add oxygen to a fire. And yet, given the scale of the inferno, its effectiveness felt increasingly uncertain. Behind the scenes, tension escalated between the Sussex camp and the palace. One advisor allegedly described the atmosphere as radioactive. Another claimed the monarchy was tired of being dragged into crossfire they didn't start. Whether these whispers were true or just products of an overheated press cycle, the outcome was the same: speculation spiraled. And through it all, Tom Bower remained unbothered, even smug. One editor who spoke to him the day after the broadcast described him as calm, sipping tea, refusing to modify a single word he'd said. He knows the storm, the editor explained. He's lived through dozens. What people forget is that he writes for the public record, not for royal approval. The institution has no power over him. And perhaps that was what frightened Meghan and Andrew most. Because unlike tabloids, palace briefings, or social media flare-ups, Bower's work lived on in bookshelves, in libraries, in documentaries, in the cultural bloodstream. And now that his commentary had caught fire, it was clear the story was only beginning.